Here's why Rhaenyra sent her sons on dangerous missions despite the risks. When fans of House of the Dragon and readers of Fire and Blood think about the pivotal moments that shaped the Dance of the Dragons, one decision stands out as both heartbreaking and fateful: Rhaenyra Targaryen's choice to send her sons on dangerous diplomatic missions despite knowing the risks. This single decision not only shifted the balance of power in Westeros but also had catastrophic consequences that haunted her family and deepened the war. To truly understand why she made this choice, we have to step into her mind, her role as a claimant queen, and the pressures that surrounded her during this brutal civil war. Rhaenyra wasn't simply a grieving mother or a warrior queen acting out of impulse. Her decision reveals the clash between her identity as a mother who loved her sons dearly and her duty as a queen who bore the weight of the Iron Throne on her shoulders. The stakes couldn't have been higher. The Greens, led by Aegon II, had already seized King's Landing, crowned Aegon with the Conqueror's crown, and declared Rhaenyra's children illegitimate. Her own claim was in danger of being erased before it could take root. Every day that passed without securing allies put her at a greater disadvantage. Rhaenyra understood better than anyone that this war was not just about dragons, it was about oaths, loyalties, and the careful balance of fear and respect. The lords of Westeros would not risk their lives and their houses for a weak cause. They needed to be reminded of their sworn oaths to her as Viserys' chosen heir. They needed to be courted, reassured, and in some cases, pressured into action. For that, Rhaenyra needed messengers who were not only trusted but carried the weight of her bloodline. That is where her sons came in. Sending Jacaerys, Lucerys, and Joffrey on missions wasn't just a symbolic gesture. It was a calculated move rooted in political necessity. In Westeros, bloodline and honor meant everything. A written letter might sway a house for a moment, but the personal presence of a Targaryen prince, especially one riding a dragon, spoke volumes. The sight of a dragon landing at a castle was both awe-inspiring and intimidating. It was a reminder of House Targaryen's unmatched power. By sending her sons, Rhaenyra hoped to bind her supporters more tightly to her cause and intimidate potential enemies into compliance. But let's not mistake political strategy for coldness. Rhaenyra loved her sons deeply. In fact, the irony is that her love for them was a large part of why she sent them in the first place. She believed that involving them in her campaign would not only strengthen her claim but also secure their futures. If she won the throne, her sons needed to be recognized as capable leaders in their own right. She was preparing them for rule. In her eyes, it was an act of empowerment, of making them active participants rather than passive heirs waiting in the wings. Yet, this decision highlights one of the central tragedies of Rhaenyra's story. Her role as a queen constantly clashed with her role as a mother. She couldn't afford to protect her children the way she might have wanted. The Iron Throne demanded sacrifices, and in her case, it demanded the involvement of her sons in the most dangerous parts of the war. Take Lucerys, for example. His mission to Storm's End was, on paper, supposed to be relatively safe. House Baratheon had sworn oaths to support Rhaenyra, and Lucerys' task was to remind Lord Barrows Baratheon of that promise. What Rhaenyra couldn't anticipate, or at least underestimated, was the presence of Aemond Targaryen at Storm's End. The rivalry between Lucerys and Aemond was no secret, and by sending her young son there, she inadvertently set the stage for tragedy. Lucerys was barely a man, still in his teenage years, and his death at Aemond's hands not only devastated Rhaenyra personally but also escalated the war into a point of no return. Many fans and readers question why she didn't send a trusted knight or lord in her son's place. Why put children at such risk when there were seasoned warriors and envoys at her disposal? The answer circles back to the importance of blood and dragons. A knight might carry her words, but her sons carried her legacy. They were living proof of her claim. Lords might dismiss a knight's pleas, but they would not dismiss the sight of a Targaryen heir riding a dragon. For Rhaenyra, the risk was outweighed by the potential political gain. Another layer to this decision lies in the culture of House Targaryen itself. The Targaryens were not like the other noble houses. They saw themselves as closer to gods than men, destined to rule, their dragons proof of their superiority. Within this worldview, danger was part of their existence. Targaryen children were expected to ride dragons, face perils, and carry themselves with the same fearless confidence as their ancestors. Rhaenyra, shaped by this culture, may have seen the missions as dangerous, yes, but not unreasonable. Her sons were dragon riders. In her mind, that gave them both protection and authority. We also can't ignore the personal pressures Rhaenyra faced. By the time she sent her sons on their missions, she was already under immense strain. Her claim had been challenged, her legitimacy insulted, and her very identity undermined. The Greens painted her children as bastards, mocking their right to inherit. Sending her sons out into the world wasn't just about securing allies, it was about proving their legitimacy. Every lord who welcomed them, every house that swore loyalty to them, was another blow to the rumors and another step toward securing their rightful place in history. For Jacaerys, the eldest, his missions were perhaps the most vital. He was sent north to the Arryns, the Starks, and other powerful houses. Jace's role in the dance was critical not just because of the alliances he secured but also because of what he represented, the future of Rhaenyra's line. His success in rallying support showed that her gamble wasn't entirely misplaced. Even though tragedy struck with Lucerys, Jace's efforts strengthened the Black faction in ways that would carry through much of the war. The decision also reveals something about Rhaenyra's character that makes her such a fascinating and tragic figure. She was pragmatic, but she was also prideful. She could not afford to appear weak, hesitant, or overly protective. Any sign of hesitation might have emboldened her enemies. By sending her sons, she was making a statement to the realm. She was confident in her claim, confident in her children, and confident that the gods themselves were on her side. But confidence can easily bleed into overconfidence, and this was one of Rhaenyra's fatal flaws. She underestimated her enemies, particularly Aemond, and overestimated the safety her son's dragons would provide. Lucerys' death shattered that illusion. For Rhaenyra, it was not only the loss of a beloved son but also a brutal reminder that the war was merciless, that even dragon riders were not invincible, and that every move carried consequences. From a storytelling perspective, Rhaenyra's decision adds tremendous depth to the tragedy of the Dance of the Dragons. It forces us to confront the duality of her role, the mother who wanted to protect her sons and the queen who needed to use them as pawns in a much larger game. It's easy for viewers to judge her harshly, to say she should never have risked them. But when we step into her shoes, when we weigh the political realities of her time, the decision becomes far more complex. We can even see parallels between Rhaenyra's choice and other figures in history and fiction. Leaders often send their heirs into battle, not only to inspire their people but also to prove their worth. In a society like Westeros, where strength and honor determined loyalty, hiding her sons away would have made them appear weak. Instead, she placed them at the forefront, showing the realm that they were ready to fight for their claim. The tragedy is that this act of strength became the very thing that exposed their vulnerability. Lucerys' death fueled the war's brutality. Jacaerys' missions, while successful, put him in harm's way. Even the youngest, Joffrey, was destined to suffer in the chaos that followed. The very children Rhaenyra sought to elevate